Show me what you got.
Excellent. Well, hi. Okay. Well, we'll get this thing going. Hello. Welcome. My name is Rachel Patterson. I'm the director of Acting Studio Chicago, and I am so thrilled you're all here. I hope you're staying safe, you're staying healthy, and that you're enjoying this lovely, rainy, gray weather. I say that with no sarcasm. I truly love it. I am so pleased to welcome you to the 5th episode of the ASC webinar series, Jammy Jams, where the host and the lovely guests chat in their jammies. I'm excited once again to welcome Matt Miller, Director Matt Miller, and First AD Tim Harris. Thank you for agreeing to join Adria and myself today. I'm very excited for this topic today. It's a little bit different. We've been talking about the audition process a lot, and this is going to really focus on what actors do after they get the job. So I'm excited to watch this. For those of you who are curious about what's going on at the studio, our next session begins May 17th, entirely online. That's really all I got to say. Please, everybody, take good care of yourselves. And now I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to Ms. Adria Dawn. And I'm excited to watch. All right, thank you guys.
Great, thanks Rachel.
All right.
Thanks Tim, thanks Matt.
So hey guys, this is Jammy Jam episode 5, already episode 5. This is the actor on the commercial set. This jam is about the relationships between the director, the first AD, and you guys. We'll find out what our guests do before and during a shoot, and how an actor, which is most of you guys out there listening, can best be a part of an effective commercial production team. I have 2 exciting guests I'm going to intro, and then we'll get to it, okay? First, we have the amazing Matt Miller. He is a commercial director at Cap Gun Collective. Matt's directed many commercials, you guys, including spots for Lowe's, Eggo, America's Best Eyeglasses, Crest, Hyundai, to name a few. Matt's won Gold and Silver Addy Awards. He won a Gold Addy for his online banner campaign, Office Dance, with the Hartford. You guys, I'm just saying, like, a Gold Addy is kind of a big deal. It's an American Advertising Award. Just saying, I think that that's really pretty cool. What's also cool is that Matt is a prolific director. We're focusing on his commercial work tonight, but he's done web series, TV, stage, all of it. I'm sure you guys know he was the executive producer on the hilarious series Teachers. And I just have to say that I saw Matt's stage production of Superior Donuts at Mary Archie, RIP. Gotta say I loved it, and I'm really picky.
Oh, that's sweet.
Thank you. Yeah, he's directed many acclaimed stage productions. He's a teacher. He's the founder of the Chicago Virtual Showcase. He's taught at Acting Studio Chicago. I don't know, I think that's like a really great school, I hear, or something.
I've heard it's real good.
I heard it's so good. Anyway, we're lucky to have Matt talk commercial land with us tonight, so thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. I'm exhausted hearing that list of things I've done.
Dude, you've done a lot of things. You wear a lot of hats.
No, I need a nap.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks. We also have the awesome Tim Harris. Tim is a first AD assistant director and a member of the D.G.A. That's Directors Guild of America, folks. He's been working behind the scenes in the business for decades. He went to film school at Loyola University of Chicago. In 1999, he joined the D.G.A. as a second AD, moved up to a first AD just a few years later. Since then, the size and scope of the projects have only increased. Tim works in commercials, TV, and film. He's done everything from making sure a bunch of cars on Lakeshore Drive tumble into the Chicago River, to creating timelines for multicam routines at Second City, and just a ton of commercials, you guys. Recent projects include work for Kellogg's, Kraft Heinz, McDonald's, Illinois Tourism, and Lowe's. Yeah, guys, thank you, Tim, so much for joining us.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, okay, we're gonna start at ground zero, okay? Ground zero, everyone. I want you both to talk about the main responsibilities you have in the roles that you do. So Matt, as a commercial director, what are your main responsibilities on set? And then Tim, what a first AD does as well.
Cool. Wow, that's
hit a few.
Yeah. You know, big picture, I think as a commercial director, you know, your big picture responsibility is executing the shoot and collecting the footage that's needed in order to tell that story and make that commercial work. All of the things that I'll enumerate in just a moment kind of fall underneath that, but that's really the overarching goal and the overarching objective is you're there to execute the shoot. Notably, you're not there to sometimes, I'm not a part of the editing process or part of the post process afterwards. To be, very clear about it, you're there to help produce and execute that shoot and get the footage needed to make that commercial. Underneath that, the role of the director on a commercial shoot is a little different than it is on, a film shoot, a TV shoot. You have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. You have an ad agency that has a presence on set. You have the client that is generally present on set. You have your producer. You have the ad agency producer. Sometimes you might even have lawyers there if there's particular brand promises that need to be very clearly and succinctly stated.
Wow.
So there's a lot of cooks on that set. And so the director's job is, part of it I think is to be a good filter and to take all of that information in and filter it through you and your knowledge of your team and get that information to the people who need it in order to make the changes and notes that the clients need. It's an interesting intersection between art and commerce when you're on a film shoot. I think part of my job is being the person who's responsible for the story and making sure that I'm honoring the story, but also the reason for the season, as I like to say, is we're there to move some units.
That's
We're
right.
there to sell some products. So I need to make sure that that is also being met in the way that the clients and I and the team discussed it before the shoot.
That's a lot to handle, Matt. That's a lot you got going on with that role.
Yeah. So you're hosting a party. You're hosting a party, and there's a lot of people there who have a lot of opinions about how the party should go.
I like that. I love that party analogy. Okay, cool. What about you, Tim?
So I usually come to a project once.
He's late to the party. He comes late.
I'm late to the party, and I'm kind of charged with making sure that it all runs smoothly so Matt can do his job. So I come to a project generally after it's been cast and locations have been secured. We go on our technical scout. I try to absorb as much information as I can about the location, about the equipment that's needed, the various personalities that will be involved on the actual shoot day. Translate all that into a schedule. Make sure that everyone is focused on the task at hand.
Yeah.
I tell people that I'm there to make sure that everyone's in the right place at the right time. That's kind of a big part of what I do. Also, when on set, I'm kind of the conduit between a lot of those people that Matt alluded to earlier, meaning producer and the agency producer and creatives and clients and things like that. I'll often be the conduit between them and Matt. So it's a lot of flow of information and making sure that everyone's in the right place at the right time. I'm also charged with kind of being the dad and or like kind of chief safety officer as well.
Wow.
It's my job in many times to say we really can't do that because it's illegal or it would be unsafe or we don't have the proper equipment.
Right.
But that's what scouting is for and prep is for. It gives us the time to kind of assess all of that, make sure that we have what we need for what we need to do. So
great. So you, Tim, are constantly in communication then with Matt. You guys interact quite a bit with each other.
We spend a lot of time together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So again, these are for both of you. What's the proper etiquette for actors to have with a director? Can you talk about good behaviors versus bad behaviors that you've had, Matt? And then also, Tim, with you, can you talk about pros and cons, how actors have interacted with you?
Sure.
Yeah.
I sometimes describe like the director's life on set as, you know, you're drinking from a fire hose of information that's coming at you, and there's a ton of information coming at you. Some of it you are prepared for, some of it you're not prepared for. You're putting out fires with that fire hose and using the water in any, you know, multitude of manners. But suffice it to say, it's a stressful day for the director. You know, like I said, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen on set. Hopefully you've prepared well and everybody's on the same page and you've taken pains to set expectations for everyone clearly. I think that's a big part of the pre-production work, is being clear about the expectations of what we're gonna shoot, the kind of shots we're after, where we might deviate from the plan a little bit if conditions favor us, you know, things like that. So I think a cheerful readiness is really what I look for in an actor. I look for somebody who understands the fact that I'm super stressed out, I got a lot of stuff going on, and an actor has the mindset of, I'm reading the room and I'm seeing how crazy this is, and I can see how much information you are being asked to process very quickly and the decisions you're being asked to make. I've got you. I've got your back. I'm ready. Let's do this. And that's a very powerful mindset, I think, for an actor to have on set is, you know, I'm here and I'm, you know, and it also takes it away from, I think, the actor getting self-conscious and self-sabotagey when it gets more into a mode of, I'm an asset here to you on this difficult day, and you're going to be glad that, you know, you've got me in the trenches. So I think that attitude, I love to see from an actor on set, that they're excited to be there, that
cheerful readiness.
They're aware of, oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I love that, you guys. Cheerful readiness. That's great. Remember that.
Yeah, because things are going to change. You know, the things that we've talked about sometimes just minutes before you arrive on set. Sometimes that stuff changes. It is the only constant, I think, on a film or really on a film or a commercial shoot is change. There's always going to be curveballs. There's always going to be things that are changing last minute. So I think as an actor, the more that you can be in that mindset of being ready to metabolize change and being ready to do things that you maybe were not quite prepared to do, especially having lines change, that's an important aspect, I think, of your mental mindset on set. You know, beyond that, one thing I wanted to call out was, you know, making sure that you are, when you're on set, honoring the product. You are there as a representative of that company and that brand. And I have been on set a few times with actors that have been a little casual or have said something dismissive or negative about the product. And that doesn't generally go over well when the clients and all those people are there on set. So that's something to be very, very mindful of, that you need to always make sure that what you're saying, especially when you've got a mic on, that everything you're saying is positive and honoring the products.
Excellent, excellent. What about you, Tim?
For me, again, it's more nuts and bolts. So, you know, on set, being on time, it sounds so ridiculous. Just being there on time. And if for some reason you are held up, you cannot be there on time, being in communication, you know, really what we're looking for is professionalism, and also and even when things go horribly wrong, remaining calm is so important. It's I've seen actors panic on set, and it doesn't end well for anyone, mainly for the actors, and it is something. It's a process of, as Matt said, it's a process of change and flexibility, and that's the one thing. It's the one thing that I feel colleagues, people that I work with, who've been successful over the years, are really good at, is being flexible, and remaining calm and not panicking. Like those are some of the most important things, and just really common sense and common courtesy. Those are things that go miles. You know, it will gain you a great deal of respect and goodwill over the course of a shoot day, over the course of a career. So yeah.
Great.
So on set, like interacting on set, it's I'm there to make sure that Matt has time with the actors, as much time as possible, to
Great.
execute what needs to be done.
Great.
And the better behaved everyone is, the more time we have to do that. So
Yeah,
And you guys, go ahead.
just to tag on what Tim said at the very beginning, being able to be found is a huge part of your key to success as an actor.
Yeah.
Once you know, if you're late, making sure that your contacts know about that. If you're en route and there's any delays, but then additionally, once you're on set,
Yes.
making sure that you can be found readily
Yes.
is important.
Yeah.
Because like I said, things change and suddenly we move a shot up and we need you.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys, we all know we're all glued to our phones anyway. If you haven't been to a location either, we all know to go, you know, allow extra time for travel, allow extra time for parking. Yeah, just throwing that out there too. Okay.
Craft service is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I encourage everyone to partake. But if you're going, we almost give you license on a shoot day to kind of to kind of be almost childlike in that, like, you know, if you need to go to the bathroom, don't just disappear.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times, you know, there's been a 60-person crew standing around because someone didn't say, guys, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Guys, I got to go 10-1. Oh, snap. Got that little lingo there, right?
No.
So, okay. What can actors do with the wardrobe fitting to help ensure a smooth shoot day? Tim,
You
that's
want to start,
probably.
Tim?
Yeah, sure. So it's there are so many different things you can do on a shoot day. On a fitting day, at a fitting, to kind of prepare yourself for a shoot day. Double checking to see if the script has changed from the audition, which it almost, and I mean, I'm sure everyone has been through that. Scripts change. They continue to change. Likely they will change between the fitting and the shoot day. But
So Tim, sorry to jump in, but who would they ask if the script has changed?
So generally speaking, at a fitting, you'll be working with a stylist and with the director. Oftentimes the assistant director is there. The producer will be there. The wardrobe stylist very likely will not know whether the script has changed, but in the process of the fitting, once the fitting is over, take those extra couple of seconds to ask the producer or the director or the assistant director if there have been major changes. That could give you that extra couple minutes on set. Also, just double check any sort of requirements for hair and makeup. Should you shave? Should you not shave?
Mm-hmm.
Do they want you to come partially made up and they'll fine tune it on set, or do you come with a clean face? You know, should, like, clean face, clean hair. That's always that's something that we hear a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Also, coming to the fitting, if they ask you to bring personal clothing, bring what you're asked to bring. But in addition, make sure that you have something extra, because I can't tell you how many times I've been at a fitting where an actor walks in and the director and someone from the advertising agency or the client says, "Oh my God, what you're wearing right now is perfect."
Mm-hmm.
So you will ask to change into something else. So make sure that you have something with you that you can change into if they absolutely love what you're wearing at the fitting.
Great.
So all those little things, just check in, you know, see if there's a map. most everyone has a phone now that, can get you wherever you need to go. But it's also, it doesn't hurt to have a piece of paper or that has the location on it. It's all very important. Emails can be missed. They can be accidentally deleted and you're not able to recover those. So as all those little things, the little logistic things, can prepare you, and what it does when you show up, it puts you in a position where you can get through hair and makeup quicker. You can get through wardrobe more easily. You're there on time. It makes for a calmer morning or afternoon or a beginning to your shoot day. And that's just going to make your overall experience, what you do, how you interact, it's just going to make it go so much more smoothly.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you, Tim. Anything you want to add on, Matt? Or?
Yeah, I think that's key. I think never be afraid to ask for the information you need in order to show up to set and be relaxed and rested and ready to go. Because, people are busy and it's very easy for emails to not make it to you, or there's been a delay on information that you actually need in order to prepare properly for your shoot the next day. So don't be shy about asking for that information. I think that goes with also respecting the fact that everybody's obviously very busy and drinking from that proverbial fire hose. But I want you to have the information that you need in order to be successful. So yeah, don't be afraid of asking those questions when you're at the fitting. I generally make it a point of trying to meet all of the actors at the fitting. Sometimes circumstances being what they are, if we've had a curveball or the phone call for the pre-production meeting goes late, I might not be able to meet everyone, and I don't like it when that happens, because I do think it's good for me, it's good for the actors if we can have some kind of small interaction and just meet a little bit and chat about what we're going to be doing before we get to the shoot day, where it's a little less pressurized in that fitting.
Okay, great. And so then when the actors do actually show up on set, what are the key things that they do at that point? And also, how much rehearsal do they get on a commercial set?
Maybe I'll speak to the rehearsal stuff first, Tim, and then you can talk about maybe some of the logistics of checking in on set. But
perfect.
I think for theater actors, this is the biggest change. I think when you're working on a commercial set or a film set, is you're used to having weeks of rehearsal to play around with ideas, to let things gestate and ultimately grow a performance over time. You don't have that luxury on a commercial set. And that's why I think also the audition process is a little different in terms of your mentality as an actor. I think when you're auditioning for a commercial, you need to be thinking about turning in a performance and not an audition.
Right.
And I say that because there's no rehearsal process once you get to set. I'm blocking it once or twice with Tim and the DP and the rest of the crew helping out. But that's for the cameras. That's to make sure that we have the shot and the angles and the lights and all of those things that we need. And I'll try to get a rehearsal take or two in, especially if it's dialogue heavy, so that we're making you as the actor as comfortable as possible. But we're going to do that once or twice, and then we're doing it for real. So it's a very different kind of rehearsal process in that regard. And that's something I think you just need to be prepared for. And it starts with the audition. It starts with coming into the audition with a performance paradigm rather than an audition paradigm.
Gotcha.
Which, when I was acting, when I first got to Chicago, I often, went to theater auditions with the script in my hand. And while that's still a legal thing to do, I wasn't as prepared as I needed to be in order to truly be successful in a commercial audition. I wasn't able to be free, and I wasn't fully aware of, what the time constraints of the spot were, and where I could potentially play or improvise. So there is yeah, there's real need to be, I think, aware of that. And yeah, that's my 2 bits.
Yeah.
Hand it over to Jim.
Great,
Cool.
great.
So once you're actually, let's differentiate between location and set. So once you're at location, you go through the whole, obviously the whole hair, makeup, and wardrobe process. And oftentimes there will be a holding area, which is interesting to say that now because I'm thinking about like moving forward from where we are today and how that is going to change. So maybe we'll have to do a follow-up in a couple of months once some of these things have been defined.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there will be there will be holding and but once you actually arrive on set, it's an interesting process. You need to make sure that you are coming to set free of all of what you just went through. So often holding will be secure. So please resist the urge to bring lots with you to set. I would say the most that you should ever have on you would be a phone and potentially a bottle of water. Everything else needs to kind of remain back and holding, so that you don't have to worry about a purse or a bag or a book or something like that. It's really the time when you are on set to be focused on exactly what you're there to do. And once you get there, you'll often be introduced. You'll often be escorted by the second assistant director, which I know that you want to touch on. You want to touch on that a little bit later. But second assistant director or a production assistant will likely bring you to set. Oftentimes immediately introduced to the first assistant director, someone like myself. And we will generally get right into it. We go into blocking, and as Matt said, we'll usually run a scene. Maybe we get to run a scene a couple of times, but after a couple of runs, it's the camera's rolling and we're actually working. So prior to coming to set, just make sure your stuff is neat and kind of tidy in holding. If you're given proper warning, visit the bathroom. Simple things. And if you get to set and you find yourself dying of thirst and you have to deliver lines and you feel yourself drying out, you need to let us know. You need to ask. And it's not an imposition to ask someone for water so that you can do your job.
So we don't sound like this.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, you might just want to ask for water next time. Okay.
Because sound recordists are unforgiving. So
great. Awesome, you guys. Okay, I have David H. and Anne Marie H. separate from each other, but similar questions. They ask, is it okay and who do you ask for a copy of the commercial? When and how is it appropriate to ask for it?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So know that you're not going to get a copy of that commercial until it's aired. So you don't need to start your inquiries until you've seen it online. Your best resource to verify when it has aired is ispot.tv. That's a really good website to check out if you have never done that as an actor. Check out ispot.tv. That is where they list all of the airings for broadcast commercials, not internet, but for broadcast commercials. That's where you can see where they're airing on what networks at what time. Super helpful reference site. Once you have seen that the spot has aired, your first and best bet is contacting the production company. And generally on your call sheet, you will see the production company's name. Most production companies have a website and you can go there and find some contact information. And then when you contact them, just identify yourself as an actor in the recent spot for Lowe's or Crest or whatever it might be. And keep your request very simple and straightforward. But the production company is usually able to get you a copy for your reel. If you're not able to go through the production company for some reason, the next best bet is probably the director. Directors are a little harder to track down, though. Most of the time, their contact info will not be on your call sheet. So you can see if they've got a website or a social media presence. You want to be very careful, though, when you're reaching out to a director. You do not want to, be doing anything other than just asking for a copy of the spot. I've certainly had some actors who have contacted me out of the blue and have told me a lot of life stories and things that's exciting. I just didn't have time to respond to. So that's maybe your second choice. Third choice is the ad agency, and specifically the traffic department. So if you contact the ad agency, again, that should be a name on the call sheet, and call them once the spot is out. Ask for the traffic department, and hopefully they can route you if you identify yourself as an actor in the spot and help you procure a copy.
So you guys don't email Matt and talk about your cats, okay?
No cats. No cats.
That, maybe.
Super allergic. Super
Okay.
allergic.
So sometimes you guys work on one spot, or sometimes it may be multiple spots with the same actors, which is so awesome when that happens to us, right, guys? Can you talk about how shooting multiple spots can work best for everyone, and maybe what the challenges are as well?
Multiple spots are challenging. And it's rare these days that I am just tasked with doing one spot. Usually it is a collection of spots. It has everything to do with money and efficiency. So on any shoot day, often Tim and I, when we're working on the projects we've been working on together, we're doing 3 or 4 spots over the course of 3 days and collecting a lot of distinct pieces. And so it is, it's fun. It's like a big puzzle, a big puzzle that Tim has to put together and solve. But it's challenging in that we have a very limited amount of time to collect all of these distinct pieces that we'll need in order to assemble these four separate spots at the end of the shoot. So it's challenging in terms of the time, and budgeting the time is really where it gets tricky. And you really can, as a director and a first AD, you can really feel the weight of that schedule sometimes if you start to fall behind and trying to figure out where you can get back some of that time you've lost. But that's the big challenge with multiple spots, and it's a frequent occurrence. I think as an actor, I think just being aware of the fact that we are collecting a bunch of different things. And, again, that cheerful readiness of when we're ready for you, being ready to pop in, do your thing, take your adjustments and notes as they come, and know that we're probably going to have you back in a couple more hours to do something relatively different. But, that's a pretty common occurrence now on commercial sets. Tim, would you agree with that?
Yeah, very much so. One of the things I was going to bring up, the difference between multiple spots with, it's rare that you would get multiple spots with a principal actor, but with background folks, oftentimes Matt and I have done a lot of work for Lowe's, and occasionally we will shoot, well, actually all the time. When we're shooting in store, because we shoot in store quite a bit, you'll have, for instance, you'll be in appliances, and one spot will be based around appliances, and maybe another one will be based around paint. Oftentimes, just for ease of, for efficiency's sake, we'll keep the same background players for the store day. We'll have a group of 15 maybe. But we're allowed certain numbers by the advertising agency. They'll say, well, we have allotted X number of background for this spot, this department. So it's much more common, I would say, for a background performer to work on multiple spots in a single day. And that's something that's, I mean, luckily with, you know, the SAG contract, even without the SAG contract, you know, it's all very defined. It should be taken care of long before you arrive on set. So you know, if you work in multiple spots, you're paid for multiple spots, which is a great thing for actors. And you know, again, being there on time, and all of those other things make us make people like me and other assistant directors much more amenable to you know, those that are more professional.
Yeah.
Definitely get more work.
Awesome. And I was just going to say too, you guys, if we think about, you know, such a time crunch with all these multiple spots that these guys have to make, if you're not getting like a bunch of feedback about great job and all that after everything that you do, that's not bad. You know, no news is good news. So just keep rolling. You know, you don't need all of that. Thinking about, because they're not going to tell you that, because they're thinking about the next shot they've got to get before lunch, you know. Just wanted to throw that in.
Oftentimes it's like, great, moving on. That means that everyone did everything correctly. And you know, to Matt's point, we're packing a lot in to 10, 12-hour days, and oftentimes, and I feel bad at the end of some days when I've realized that I haven't thanked everyone, because we've just been moving so fast and doing so much. But yeah, to Adria's point, like, no news really is often good news. If you're getting news, it's generally
fix it. Do something else. Okay. So you talked a little bit about the second AD versus the first AD. So what are the main differences they need to know? The second AD is who you check in with?
Generally speaking, the second AD is oftentimes the person who kind of runs base camp. So meaning an actor will arrive, check in with the second AD, and then from there either be told to kind of hang out, relax for a little bit, or get directly into hair, makeup, and wardrobe. So there's the scene, then there's behind the scene, and then there's behind the scene. And the second AD is running the behind the scene, the kind of the kind of nuts and bolts before the performance.
Yeah.
So it's a very important person to be in contact with throughout the day. You know, make sure, because oftentimes on set I'd be dealing with the lighting and camera departments and the, you know, set dressing, art department, things like that. So the second AD is really the person who's going to kind of manage the actors, manage where the actors are on set. I will generally be working very closely with the second AD throughout the day, making sure, again, that everyone is in the right place at the right time.
Awesome. You guys got that? First AD versus second AD. There's going to be a quiz after. Just kidding. I have a question from Anna G, whose favorite type of pajamas is a cute matching set with shorts. I'm glad I know that. Okay. Is it okay for an actor to send out their headshots to commercial directors or production companies to let them know that they're available for work?
I would say it's fine if you do that. It is probably not going to yield much in terms of results, because most production companies have to work through a casting director or a talent agency for their projects. I would say that rather than headshots, it's once you've booked a project, a thank you note. Those go a much longer way with production companies and directors and you know, people of that ilk. So rather than, I think, headshots and sending your stuff cold to those people where it's likely not going to make it to them, it's once you have booked a job and you hopefully had a great experience, you can write them a quick thank you note, and that is a really nice signal to send to gatekeeper types like directors and production companies. And it's also maintaining a relationship that hopefully you can develop over time. So big fan of the thank you note versus just the cold submissions.
Great. Okay, I have a question from anonymous attendee who visits every week with me. Thank you. They say, if we know that there will be a teleprompter, do you still expect the actors to be off book anyway, just in case?
Tim, I mean, I think we both have worked with teleprompters on set. I mean, generally, if a teleprompter is there, at least for a shoot that I'm doing, and maybe this is a slightly different conversation, but most of the time I'm getting hired to do comedic performance work. Right. And so those scripts are not going to be terribly jargon heavy. They're not going to be overly long. When you're getting into industrial kind of shoots where there's sometimes a product that has a lot of side effects or things that have to be read out legally, that's when you really need the prompter and that help there. That's a really specific skill set that takes some practice getting used to, keeping your eyes alive, understanding where you need to look in order to look like you're fully engaged with the camera and not just reading. It's a real magic trick to do. But I generally don't have it on set for my kind of shoots just because I'm not really dealing with that much copy typically to necessitate it. I think the most recent time I've used one was when I had a celebrity who I knew was not going to be able to, and there was like 5 spots they had to do. So it wasn't like just one 30-second spot. It was like 5 or 6 that we had to shoot in the course of a 10-hour day. And, I knew that they were on another project and they were coming in and it was just going to be that day. And they actually requested having it. So that was a situation where it made sense to have it. And he was very, very good at using the teleprompter. But most of the time, I do think that it is not acting. It gets into trick reading. But sometimes that's really necessary for a commercial shoot, especially if it's an industrial where there's, again, a lot of copy.
Yeah, I would agree. It's I generally work with a teleprompter maybe twice a year. It is generally with celebrity talent or someone who has to do a crazy amount of copy. That being said, I don't, in my experience, the teleprompter is there so that you don't necessarily have to be off book. I mean, it's obviously extremely valuable to be familiar with the material, but the teleprompter is there so that small changes can be made quickly and actually allow actors to do their job. So off book, no, not necessarily. But as Matt said, it's kind of a rare occurrence to have a teleprompter on set, in my experience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
These are similar questions from Emily Renee S. and Jonathan G. We had O'Connor talk to us about improving in the commercials and things, and they are both wondering, like, will you as the director, Matt, tell them when to improv, or will they know ahead of time they're going to do that? What's the sitch on that, on improv?
I think most of the time we've established hopefully a rapport in the callback room. And the things that you've done in the callback room, that's where I want you to start. So if we were screwing around a lot in the callback room and we got into some territory that was really fun but was definitely off script, I'm probably going to want you to play around a little bit with that kind of stuff. But also, I almost always have to get the verbatim script. I've got to get that in the can. I've got to get exactly what is written in order to, again, make sure all of the bases are covered for all of the people who are, who are there because they need to make sure that the brand promises are being explicitly stated and so on and so forth. Part of my job becomes, in the performance stuff that I do generally is making sure it's funny and fun. So I want you to bring the funny. that hopefully we saw and found together in the callback. So know that that's always the goal. If it's a comedic spot, I want you to bring the funny. And, you know, on set, know that I might need to start you by doing it verbatim, but then hopefully we start to work pretty quickly into a mode where it loosens up and it feels a little bit more human and fun and funny, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, I would say that starting with the baseline is really the most important thing. I mean, it really does, in a lot of ways, put the advertising agency and the client at ease, knowing that they have the baseline. And then once you have that,
Mm-hmm.
then it's never good to start with total improv unless you've been explicitly asked to, like, okay, here, go for it, have fun, do what you need to do.
Yeah. We're going to work a build, most likely. We'll usually start with that basic script and then continue to add and play.
Okay, great. I think this is maybe a question for Tim. Guy Wiki, hey Guy, he is wondering who he should ask for the director's info to send a thank you note. Would that be the second AD, or who would he ask?
I would say generally speaking, most production companies that you work with, the directors are on staff at those production companies. So asking, generally speaking, I would say send thank you notes. Any sort of correspondence should go through the production company.
Thank you.
And that's available on the call sheet that you'll receive.
Awesome. Got it, Guy. Cool. Kathleen C. has a question. She says that she was once in a commercial shoot that was directed seemingly by committee, where the director, producer, clients would stop action and discuss, but never talk to the actors about it. Is that standard, Matt?
It shouldn't be, but you know, I've certainly been on some shoots where I've had ad agency people who have, you know, a lot of times it's just out of excitement. They want to chime in, or they have an idea and they start talking to the actors. And that is a line that I generally try to be very clear and you know, forceful about respecting, because it gets very confusing for actors if they suddenly have the fire hose turned on them. And that's exactly what it sounds like happened to Kathleen, is that the fire hose was turned on her, and suddenly she has a lot of input coming from 3 or 4 different people, and she doesn't know which one is most important. And that's why I think the lines of communication that have been established in our industry in terms of how a director is, you know, the person, and the first AD too, are the ones generally who are going to be in contact with the actors in terms of relaying notes, getting them tweaks and adjustments as needed. It causes a world of confusion for actors when that starts to happen. So I'm sorry that happened to you. It does happen, I'd say, with some frequency, though. I'd say most of the time it's not malicious. It's just, ooh, we want this. Oh, can we do this? And they start, especially if Video Village is very close to the set where all of those people are stationed, they can sometimes just get ahead of themselves. So, you know, hopefully the director is able to establish that clear line of communication, because many times those notes are not actable things. And so that's also why it needs to go through the director, is that many times the note is not something that an actor can actually adjust. And so I have to interpret what they actually are trying to achieve and then talk to the actor, hopefully with an objective that they can execute, because many times that's not how it's framed.
Yeah, well, we love it when directors talk to us in actor speak. That's great. This is, Autumn W asks, who hires the director and producer? Is it usually the creative ad agency? And who hires you, Tim? Who hires y'all?
Do you want to?
That's a good question.
Why don't you start, Matt? Because
Yeah, okay.
Matt hires me.
Okay.
So basically the chain is the brand hires the ad agency The ad agency then hires a production company, generally through a bid process. So generally, like an actor, I'm auditioning as well. So sometimes I'm up against 2 or 3 other directors who are bidding on the same job. Production companies generally represent a small stable of directors. Capgun, that represents me, has, I think, about 6 or 7 right now. And, you know, some production companies only have 1, some have 20, just depends on the production company. But the production company reps the director, and then the ad agency narrows it down to their favorite for the production company and the director. The client gets to approve that choice. Most of the time they're in alignment, and then that production company and director gets hired. I am working generally with a producer at Capgun. Head of production generally is who I'm corresponding with during the bid process. And then once the job is awarded, we will bring on a line producer to help work that particular job, who will interface with the head of production at the production company. But that line producer is generally someone that I've had a relationship with or worked with before. And then we start putting together our crew and putting together, you know, the designers and all of the department heads that we'll need for the job. And that's a part I really love. I love the assembly of the team and bringing everyone together. And, you know, I love working with Tim. I feel like anytime I can get Tim, I love having him just because his energy on set is infectious. And, you know, it makes my job easier when I have a first AD who is, I know, conscious of all of the things that are in my brain, and furthermore trying to protect my brain from the things I don't need to know about.
Right.
That's something a good first AD knows how to do, and Tim's very good at that.
Wow, that's awesome, you guys, to think that Matt goes to bat just like we do, you know, these rounds and all of that. It kind of makes it more relatable to us, you know, because I'm assuming it's, you know, competitive, super competitive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a hard game.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, one more question before we play my game. Maria W says, Tim, what was your journey to becoming an AD?
Oh, that's interesting. I fell backwards into a production assistant job when I was in college, and I bounced around quite a bit, and I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do, what kind of path I was going to take. I spent a little bit of time working with some art department folks. I learned how to build a camera. The only thing that I couldn't, back when they actually used film, so the only thing that I couldn't do was actually load a mag, but I could open up a camera. I could open up a camera package and build the whole thing from the, you know, from boxes to ready to go, basically. And there was a guy in Chicago that I worked for quite a bit. His name's Jim Giovanetti, and he's a master. He's done everything. He still is. He's still ADing on Chicago Fire, and I kind of was just. I started working with Jimmy a lot. He one day asked if this is what I wanted to do, and I thought it's such an interesting thing. I really love what I do because I spend a majority of my time kind of in the thick of it, and it's it's a wonder to behold, from my perspective as an assistant director, standing there just watching everything unfold and kind of making sure that the flow is there, making sure that Matt's protected. A lot of what I do, Matt did allude to it, that, you know, a lot of what I do is buffer what the kind of information that makes its way to Matt. There's a lot of translation that I have to do. But it's, I don't think anyone is born and they say, you know, I really want to be an assistant director. But it's a skill set. It's a skill set that I found that I had, and it's served me really, really well. I'm incredibly lucky.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So when you go home from work, are you just like, well, when you get back to work, do you just go home and like veg out because you just had so many wheels turning, or are you busy at home too? Are you just always busy?
There's a lot of I'm much more quiet at home than people would expect.
Okay, it's game time. So, okay, Matt and Tim, I made a silly game for you guys to play with me as we end this Jammy Jam, and it is called Pick Which Statement is a Lie. So I will say 3 sentences, and you will pick the one that is not true.
Okay.
Or maybe, you know, the other will pick the one that's they'll guess. So we'll start with Matt, and then we'll go with Tim. So, which one is a lie? Number 1, Matt is very tall and feels a few years older than he actually is. Number 2, Matt's next project is a comedy thriller called The Dryer Ate Me. Number 3, Matt is an Eagle Scout and he sometimes wears glasses to help him see. What do you think? What do you think, Tim? Which is a lie?
I think it's number 2. I think it's The Dryer Ate Me.
Is it, Matt?
That is correct.
That is correct. He is not going to be working on a comedy thriller called The Dryer Ate Me. But he is really tall.
It's true.
And he is an Eagle Scout.
Extremely.
Yes, he wears glasses because they help him see.
Indeed.
Excellent. You win. Okay, so now we're going to go with Tim's round of which is the lie. Are you ready, Matt? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Number 1, Tim is originally from Chicago, though he spent many years working in Prague, Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, while other kids were out playing, Tim had to cut pork chops up in his dad's butcher shop.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, the scariest job Tim had was a job for Pampers that included triplets with the stomach flu. Which
this is
a
challenging. I know that Tim grew up in Chicago, specifically South Side, Bridgeport. He's a White Sox fan. I don't hold that against him, though. Yeah. I know that he has done a lot of work with kids on commercial shoots, but I suspect that one might be a lie because I do know, what was number 2? I forget number 2 already.
Number 2 was, while other kids were out playing, Tim had to cut pork
the butcher.
chops up.
I know that, you know, he knows his way around a cleaver. And I do think that he did cut up a lot of meat for his dad in the butcher shop as a youth. So I think number 3 is the lie.
What do you think, Tim?
I think Matt is correct.
Yay!
Yes!
You guys are
Killing it.
You guys are winners tonight. And, you know, with that, I'm going to thank you both very much for being our guests tonight. You guys were great. Thank you to our queen, Rachel Patterson at Acting Studio Chicago. And everyone out there, thank you guys for joining us so much. And just a reminder, friends, if you're going to shoot anything in your face, I might suggest maybe some Botox over some Lysol. And there are better things to drink than bleach. That is a wrap. Thanks, you guys. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you,
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.